Clemson's definitely down, but where's Miami to pick up the pieces? We got Paul from Paul Scoop on the U to break down Miami football at 2-2 following a bit of a scrimmage against Central Connecticut. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, and please subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. And, of course, check out Paul's work on Paul Scoop on the U. Paul, how are we doing today?
Mark, thank you again for having me on your YouTube channel. You're the voice of college football, so I'm always grateful for the opportunity. And I think last time we spoke was a little bit before Alabama. Since then, I have added the Brandon Merriweather show to my weekly YouTube channel. So I'll be doing it once a week. And Brandon Merriweather, one of the great Miami Hurricanes safeties to ever play at the University of Miami. First round pick. He played 8 seasons in the NFL, 2-time Pro Bowler. So he doesn't really hold back when he talks about University of Miami football. So if you really like uncensored University of Miami football talk, I think you'll enjoy this new feature I have to my YouTube channel.
Okay, everybody check that out. Just go to Paul's YouTube channel again, Paul Scoop on the U. You will check out his normal content. And then this new show, Brandon Merriweather show, very intriguing considering it's coming from an expert opinion. Definitely worth a listen. No question about that. You mentioned the Alabama game and what the hopes were for reasonable Miami fans and staying competitive, making that a game. And then we saw what we saw, especially in the first half. And really since then, you consider that Central Connecticut, anybody with a pulse in FBS football is going to win that game by 50 points. Okay. So throw that one out. It's just a win in the win column. The App State game, I got to tell you, as you know better than I do, if App State catches a ball for 15 yards on the final drive, their field goal kicker had made other kicks. He's probably going to kick the game-winning field goal. So they were that close to dropping that one, and it could be really ugly right now. As it stands, 2-2 is not what Miami fans expected or wanted at this point.
100%, Mark. That App State game, we're a little bit, there traditionally, if you lose to Alabama week 1, you don't finish ranked at the end of the season. I think Virginia Tech was the only opening opponent Alabama faced. Ole Miss, Florida State, for example, really went downhill for them as well. So Virginia Tech was the only opponent that finished ranked. And, we played App State, and, hey, they left a lot of points on their board. I felt like if they had a better quarterback in Chase Bryce, he would have hit their tight end more, number 18, who I thought was wide open the entire time. Their wide receivers were open a lot. I think they win that football game. They had a safety. The ball, it was a bad snap with the punter. They missed a couple field goals, so they left a lot of points on the board, Mark. Miami escaped a victory. Manny Diaz said after the press conference they do this to everyone on the road, even though last year they lost to Marshall by 10 points on the road. So I don't really get that. And then Marshall was in a shootout with App State as well. Then we lose to Michigan State by 21 points. I go off on a rant. Miami was supposed to win the game by 6 or 8 points according to Vegas, and you lose by 21 points at home. Disgusting performance. I don't think we have to revisit that. The following week, Michigan State is in an overtime shootout with Nebraska as well. They win the football game, but the two teams you almost lose to, but you won the game. The second team you lose to by 21 points, they're in literally shootouts with opponents who are awful. So this is going to be very interesting, this game coming up against UVA. They have a very scrappy offense and quarterback in Brendan Armstrong. Mark, total yards wise per game, UVA is averaging 506 total yards. That's very impressive. That does not sound like a 2-2 football team. They average 430 passing yards, and their quarterback, Brendan Armstrong, he had 400 passing yards against Wake, 500 passing yards against UNC. He currently right now has 1,705 passing yards, 13 TDs, 3 interceptions, and they literally snap the football less than 25 seconds every play. They run very fast. It's a very dynamic offense, very scrappy football team. So their offense is really going to put up points. Now, defensively, that's a whole different story. We'll get into this game a little bit more further into the show, but this is going to be another very interesting matchup for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, not only are we just 4 weeks into it in terms of games played, but it's in some sense, a very different football team and a very different vibe to all the optimism and the hope heading into 2021. And now without a starting quarterback, with some injuries at running back and on both sides of the ball to a certain extent, and just the program apparently being on the brink of needing to make another change at the head coaching position, as many believe that they should have already. Others think, let's see how this plays out and see if they're able to right the ship, because I guess the one fair point would be this is the ACC opener. So regardless of what's happened before now and how ugly it's been, they do get a clean slate in regards to trying to compete for the ACC championship starting Thursday night.
Yeah, I feel like it's deja vu every single season. It's like, oh, it's ACC play now. It's wide open. Everyone has a clean slate, regardless of how you started the season. You can still win out and win the ACC Coastal. The toughest thing Miami's ever had to overcome in a program's history, right, is overcoming the ACC Coastal. We've only won it once, technically. We won it twice. I believe that was, God, what year was that? 2013, I want to say. But we were on probation, so we couldn't attend. We did it. It was self probation we put ourselves upon. It wasn't the NCAA that mandated that. So as a program, as a university, we could not attend postseason, football games. So we did that. We imposed the bans upon ourselves. But yeah, no, it's the ACC Coastal. And, these next 5 games, Mark, you got UVA, UNC, NC State, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech. If Miami can get through those 5 games, they're 5-0. They're sitting pretty. But I'll be honest, those next 5 games are really going to determine the rest of the season, because NC State just beat Clemson. Okay? They're going to be a tough game. It's at home. But, look, they just beat Clemson. Got to respect that performance, and they're going to be a tough opponent, no doubt about it. You got UNC, who always plays you hard in Chapel Hill. Every single game in Chapel Hill is going to be a close game, or UNC wins by a lot. That's just traditionally how Miami has played in UNC. Then you have Georgia Tech, which just beat North Carolina. You got Pitt, who beat Tennessee, playing away in Knoxville. I think that's a very solid win. And you got a scrappy UVA team you're going to have in a short week. So we're going to see what happens against Virginia this Thursday. But these next 5 games are really going to determine the rest of the way for the Miami Hurricanes football season. So who knows what could happen.
Paul, I know you don't want to dig up the Michigan State game, but it comes to mind in particular because that's what I took away. What I mentioned a few minutes ago about the App State game was that it was a game that I watched a couple nights later on DVR and went through it. That App State had a couple passes that could have been caught for 15-yard gains. The drive stalled right around midfield. They're one pass reception away from getting to the 30-yard line and attempting a game-winning field goal. I look up the kicker, and he's pretty capable, and thinking, wow, Miami dodged a bullet there. Yeah. Looking at the Michigan State game, what's pretty noticeable there, and you mentioned Michigan State comes home the next week. They're playing a conference game, which is important if they want to advance in the conference, obviously, and they're in this tug-of-war with the Nebraska team that's struggled for years now in overtime. And Michigan State's playing at Miami. There was talk that week about heat, humidity, Miami having an advantage in the fourth quarter, and it looked like the exact opposite. It just comes into question both in talking to you and a number of other contributors over the last few years, the development of the players, the scheme, the strategy, and then just them preparing the players for game situations with the game on the line in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Manny Diaz has been here since 2016. This is his defense. These are the players that he handpicked in the recruiting process, and there's been no development. He's been a part of their development process. The only player he's developed at the University of Miami that doesn't come from the transfer portal is Gregory Rousseau. That's a big red flag right there. Your best players come from the transfer portal, and they have instant success, and they're the best players on your team. Why is that? I think that's a big question mark. Kenneth Walker, trying to move back to the Michigan State game real quick. Everybody said the temperature would bother Michigan State. When I went to the game, I was walking around. There was one Michigan State fan who I think he was having a heat stroke honestly, he was pouring cold water above his head. He was sitting down in a corner, and he was really feeling the heat. There were Michigan State fans saying, I've never been in a place this hot in my life. It is very humid. For some reason at Hard Rock Stadium, it's a lot more hotter. Maybe it's just all concrete, the parking lot. They took away the grass yellow lot, for example. That's where I was at to start the game. So you feel it a lot more. And there's not really much of a breeze in the Miami Gardens area next to Hard Rock Stadium. So maybe it's those reasons. But Kenneth Walker, he rushed for 172 rushing yards, 6.4 yards per carry. A lot of people were saying he hadn't played anyone. That's why he was running so successfully. Well, he just ran for over 172 yards against the Miami Hurricanes while playing a road game. A lot of missed tackles. Miami leads the nation in missed tackles. Our D-line literally puts no pressure at all on the quarterback. That's something that needs to be fixed. Chance Williams, he has 5 total tackles, 2 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. That's with a limited amount of snaps compared to Zach McLeod, who only has 2 total tackles and 1 sack, yet they keep playing him, and he's a 6th or 7th year senior. I'm not even kidding. He's been at Miami for that long. So you got to start thinking about the young guys who are making plays and giving them more playing time. They want it more. Are we going to see a Romello Brinson who made an incredible one-handed catch? I don't care who you're playing with. That was an incredible catch. Is he going to get more playing time? Is Brashard Smith going to get more playing time? D. Wiggins literally dropped another wide open pass, which was an easy touchdown. Why do you give him looks or targets? Take him out. We've already seen enough of D. Wiggins. He's been in the program for roughly 4 years, I think. It's time to go. Will Mallory, he's consistently dropped a lot of passes this season. Elijah Arroyo, that's a young guy. Give him more playing time. So, Manny Diaz needs to get over this whole veteran seniority kind of personnel that he wants to play a lot more. He was playing Scott Patchin. This was Gregory Rousseau's kind of like first year, redshirt freshman year at Miami. First 4 games, he was starting Scott Patchin. Some people say it's because Rousseau wasn't fully healthy. Well, you know what? Rousseau starts the rest of the way. Patchin hits the bench. It's a deja vu common occurrence thing. It needs to end. You got to start playing the young guys. I'm glad James Williams got the start against Gervin Hall, who was, I think he was suspended for the game. I wasn't sure what the reason was. Maybe he wasn't suspended. He just sat out. But James Williams needs to play more. Leonard Taylor needs to play more. Chance Williams, Brashard Smith, Romello Brinson. Those are all guys who need to play a lot more. Would like to see Thad Franklin get a lot of burn too.
And you mentioned Brendan Armstrong. Here's a guy I saw some of the game against North Carolina. He ripped them up, and he ripped up Wake Forest pretty well. Even though Wake won the game by 20 points, that wasn't really his issue. Virginia has, like Miami, other issues on the field, and it's not him. He's developed in a really good quarterback, and I actually tweeted out that night. I said, this is maybe the best quarterback in the nation that nobody's talking about because he can really sling it around. So, when you mentioned, he came back to mind when you mentioned Miami not being able to put up the kind of pass rush that they're going to need to put up in this game in particular, but if they want to win the division.
Yeah, no, I mean, every single game in conference play is a must win. Before the season started, I thought like one conference loss could get you in the Coastal. It seems like it's going to be a lot more than that. I thought UNC was going to be the front runner. That is, they're nowhere near that whatsoever. You ask me who's going to win the Coastal right now, I have no idea. I have no expectations. But I'll say this, Mark, if Miami doesn't beat UVA at home, they're only favored by 4, give or take, but this is really a must-win once again for Manny Diaz, and he knows it. He cannot afford to lose against this UVA football team or a lot of football games the rest of the way. He's on the hot seat. He's feeling it from the national press as well. Kirk Herbstreit on College Game Day went off on the University of Miami football program. Mike Farrow of Rivals as well has been going off on the program. AOL.com released an article about Manny Diaz and, feeling a lot of heat that he's on the hot seat. Colin Coward even mentioned about the University of Miami football program as well. So you're getting a lot of national attention. Manny Diaz does recognize that. Even in the press conference today, he opened up and he was defending Julio Frank that he does care about the football program. Kind of different stance compared to the Barry Jackson article that was written. So he went out and defended his president. the pressure's on in Coral Gables once again, and this is a must-win game, Mark. And like you said, I really like this kid, Brennan Armstrong. Unfortunately for UVA, their defense is horrendous, and Sam Hartman literally had all the time in the world to pass the football because their defensive line at UVA is awful. They only have 5 sacks so far through 4 games. That's practically 1 sack a game. That's not a recipe for success. You need to apply pressure. So Miami, if they're going to beat UVA, you got to put up points because UVA is going to put up points, and you better cater to that. If not, you will lose this game.
Yeah, like you say, I don't know if this is going to be fun for Miami fans this season, but it's going to be fun, I think, for the rest of us trying to figure out who's going to win this division because it's just going to be a free-for-all. I don't really see where we thought North Carolina was here and Miami was maybe just barely a step behind, and that was pretty much anyone just considered those two, and everything else was just thrown by the wayside. Now you got to take everybody seriously. Virginia, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. They've already both beaten North Carolina. Everybody needs to be taken seriously to a certain extent. Even Duke put up 52 points up against Kansas, of course, but still, really almost everybody's in play in this thing.